is the Page Publishing Book Club. How you doing? I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. Quick story. I was on a 9-day bike trip through Tuscany, and let me tell you, the hills going up to the cities were a killer. And then we see people with these pedal assist bikes, so you can pedal or you can get a little motorized push. How nice, right? How expensive. Until I talked to Richard Jackal, a retired electrical engineer in Illinois, who put his background to excellent use by converting a regular bike into a pedal assist electric bike, and he tells us how in his book entitled An Easy Pedal.
I took this as a fun project. I saw all these bicycles for sale from $1,000 to well over $4,000. Since I had a motor sitting around for years, thinking someday I'll put it to use, I thought, well, I'm not doing anything. I'm retired, so I converted my bicycle. I thought I'd convert it to a pedal assist electric. And after 6 months, I think I perfected it, and it worked so well. I thought, hey, why not write a book on this so others can enjoy this? And I thought it'd be a nice family project because you don't need many tools to build this.
I consider myself a complete dummy when it comes to stuff like this. Could I do this?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
All you need is a hacksaw, a wood file, wood saw, some screwdrivers, pliers, and I made this over no soldering. A lot of people don't like the solder. I put some design objectives before I even started. No pedaling or very easy to pedal. Simple design to make with drawings included. I have many drawings included, detailed drawings.
Okay.
And I have many, many pictures. It shows how it should be, at low cost to build. Parts easy to find and readily available. Like you could buy them at Home Depot or any hardware store.
You can buy a motor at a hardware store?
That's the only thing you can't buy.
Yeah, where do you get the motor?
Well, I got mine from a window motor I had in our 72 Dodge van.
So you go to a junkyard? Where do you go to get one?
Well, I put that in my book, yeah. You can go to a
Oh.
junkyard, just bring your tools, and they let you take out anything you want.
Okay.
And now I bought a power seat motors work just as well, I found out. I bought 2 power seat motors from the surplus store.
Mm-hmm.
I bought actually 2 of them. The first one worked so well, I went back and bought another one. I only paid about $15 for those, and they work well. I just have to take off the gear drive. That's why you need a hacksaw. You cut that off.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only hard part of building this thing. You have to spend maybe half an hour cutting that off. But you can do it, no problem.
All right.
It had to be light in weight, no sharp edges. I had safety in mind, so that's why you need a file to round off the edges, any sharp edges, like in the woodwork and that.
All right.
If you look at the wiring diagram, you don't even need a schematic. Just follow the wiring diagram. It's very, very easy to build.
And you claim that these bikes can go on trails marked motorized vehicles prohibited.
Right. Being a pedal assist, it means you have to pedal. It's not considered motorized.
Ah.
Now, there are electric bicycles.
Right.
They're fully electric. It'd be like a scooter, basically.
Right.
That'd be prohibited. When the policeman's up there, you could pedal. Say, look, I'm pedaling. You know what I mean? Or if the battery died, you could pedal.
I love it. It's not fancy. It's just basic. It's great.
It's right. It's a basic, easy, fun project. And it worked out so well. I want to share it with others.
Oh, well, thank you for that. Marilyn Lewis Aleem was an education specialist for NASA before she became principal of the Islamic Academy of Huntsville, Alabama. She started as a journalist with Reader's Digest and then accepted a fellowship to grad school for a teaching master's at Smith College in Massachusetts. A mother of 5 and an educator for 50 years, Aleem was editing the works of 2 other women while she was writing her own book entitled Seeking Al-Noor.
It's what I call a tiny book. I think it's about 48 pages. I like to write what I call a one poop book, meaning you can read it in the bathroom. That is what I like because nobody has time to read anymore. Nobody likes to read anymore. We're a tweet society. So I intentionally kept the book to a limited number of poems. And the poems literally span 30 years. The poems are about one's journey and a journey towards developing one's inner spirit and dealing with finding one's soul or being in touch with one's soul. And so each poem has a story behind it. And each poem is generally about an experience that led to an epiphany. A poem for me is synthesis, which is the highest order of thinking. So you take an experience, you reflect upon it, and then you synthesize the ultimate meaning. And for me, the poem has to paint a picture or tell a story and then synthesize a meaning that someone can take away from somebody else's story or somebody else's picture of
Right.
an experience. So the poems don't seem connected, and they are, but it doesn't matter because each poem will stand alone. Let me say a word or two about the title poem, which is on page 36. It has the same title as the book, and that poem is called Al Nur, the light. Al Nur is the Arabic word for light, and it's a very short two-verse poem. It is an acclamation of the importance of daybreak in my life because when the sun comes up, so does my spirit.
Oh.
And and it started with my father telling me as a child. He would always say, "It's always darkest just before the dawn."
Right.
I didn't take that literally until I started working at NASA and became obsessed with stars and planets. And I realized that it really is always darkest just before the dawn.
Hmm.
So I get up in time to see that darkness. And this poem just says, I'm sitting by the window waiting for daybreak so it will set my spirit free.
Geez, Marilyn, you must be fascinating at a book signing.
Well, I'm having a poetry reading between now and New Year's at one of our local senior citizen centers
Okay.
because it's people probably my age who are going to be most interested. And it will be a jazz accompanied reading because most of my poems come to me when I'm listening to jazz and R&B. And in the past, I've done a poetry reading based on my first book, Alone Together. And I did it with that kind of music. And then it will be videoed and hopefully uploaded to YouTube.
Great work, Marilyn. Thank you. Eileen Shea lives in Black Mountain, North Carolina, where she recently spoke to the local Rotary about writing her first book outside of the scientific field where she spent most of her working life, including the climate change arena, writing national assessments for the Pacific Islands region, where she was inspired to write Shep and Mama Mongoose.
Shep came into my life, and little incident that happened when we were in Hawaii with the mongoose was enough to say, well, I need to share that story. So I decided to start writing it down, and I had so much fun doing it. I decided, I think maybe this could become the first of a series. So that's what the plan is. So in this book, you discover who Shep is and who his human mom is, and how we got together. And we're just having our adventures, walking every day. And we end up coming up to a spot where the vegetation is fairly thick, and there's a stone wall, and Shep keeps putting his head up and into the brush and trying to find something. And then one day a mongoose comes running out of that brush, and we now know what he was after. And so for about, I don't know, a month or so after that, he was looking for that mongoose. Eventually, we found where the burrow was, and we would stop and stare at the burrow, and he would wait to see if the mongoose came out. And then the next time we see a mongoose, it's a baby mongoose. No mama mongoose in sight, just the baby mongoose, and a group of feral cats marching towards the baby mongoose. And Shep starts barking and barking and barking and barking, and Mama Mongoose comes out. She finally sees the cat. She takes the baby by the neck with her teeth, goes into the burrow, and the baby mongoose is saved. Now, the backstory on the feral cats is there was a big giant house with nobody living in it, but lots and lots of cats. And so the four feral cats actually come out when they're young. They get through a hole in the fence, and then they get fed by a teacher at the school, which is right next to where the burrow is. And then they're too big. They can't get back inside the fence. So they're wandering around outside. The mama mongoose and the baby mongoose are actually a great example of how immigrants are often treated when they're invited in generations ago, as the mongoose was, to come take care of rats in a sugarcane field. But then they don't have any natural enemies in Hawaii, so they grow too much, they populate, and they become a threat to local wildlife. So the people in Hawaii are not real fond of mongoose anymore. And then there's Shep, who was in the Humane Society for a little over a year, almost a year and a half. He was dropped off when he was only 6 months old because his first human family got transferred to the Philippines and didn't want to take the dog. And then he stayed there for a long time until I was driving by the Humane Society. I thought, I'm just going to go in and take a look. And he was in a big, giant acrylic playpen. And as soon as I came around the walk, and he made a beeline from the far side of that acrylic pen over to my side of the acrylic pen, up on his hind legs, waving his little paws and barking and wagging his tail. So I came over and got to know him. And I went up and said, I don't have anything for a dog at home, and I'll come back to get him tomorrow. And she said, no, because he's been here too long and he's scheduled to be put down tomorrow morning. And I said, well, okay, then I'm taking him now.
Now, you said you recently went to talk to the Rotary. I guess people know you wrote this book.
Yeah, I talked to a couple of the local bookstores and given them a copy of the book and told them that I would be happy to come and do a reading, and then we'll go from there.
Great. You're on the road, Eileen.
It's the most wonderful fun I've had in a long time.
Robert Sterling is retired from the healthcare industry and now part-time musician and author, A Study in Extremes by his own admission. He's been writing since he was in elementary school and has compiled his poetry from the last decade for his book, Sinel's. You say this is for mature audiences only.
Not in the sense that it's a triple explicit type of stuff, but it was, bred out of years of experience and having these experiences and how my mind eventually came to understand them. And so I would think it would require a little bit of life experience to understand the subtleties in the poems. And so that naturally isn't for everyone, especially when it comes to emotional topics and nothing like political, so to speak, or sociological that seems to be predominant today. If it's not politically linked, it doesn't seem to have any relevance.
It's a book of poetry basically about your life.
Of course, it sprang from my life, but it has to do with topics of affection and love and connection and relationship, betrayal and separation, that whole thing. I mean,
you've got a great voice. Do you get to read in public at all?
No, I'd like to, though. I've been told that before.
Do you want to read? Do you have like something short you can read for me?
Let me see. Okay, it's called Chocolate Becomes You. You take a small piece without thought, a small jewel of delight that you rest in your hand as though a small bird or a flower or cigarette were there. As we talk of this and that, then you lean for a languorous whiff, holding the treat listlessly in your fingertips before the tongue begins its wondrous work. And as the scent makes its way through the dreamy air of our conversation, I'm reminded that a little treat such as this can become you, as all things become you, in the heat of our experience.
That's a good one.
Thank you. I have a website, that you can go read the reviews and then you can see and hear an excerpt of the poem, because I did do a whole audio version and I composed the music, the background music for it. And each poem has a separately composed theme of music as background for each poem. And you can get a taste of that on the website too.
That's good to know. So at least you're getting it out that way. Is that helping you draw attention?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
I try to urge people to get the audio version because I think when you hear the poet recite his poems, it's phrased and with the accents and things that indicate more of his or her intention in the poem.
Very interesting, Robert. At least it's not healthcare.
Yeah, That's a whole other thing. I want to write the second volume of Sonnell's.
All right. Well,
And if anyone wants to go there, just go to www.sonnells.com. SONNELLES.
all right, you can check that out while we take a very short break. This is the Page Publishing Book Club. Stay with us.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you: printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-204-6099 for your free author submission kit.
We're back on the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. Elaine Macejack is in Evanston, Illinois, where she runs a social program at the local Y. And she's a storyteller. Pretty impressive for a woman in her 80s. One of the many stories she tells is the name of her book, entitled Mother Goose and Her Puppet Friends.
In 1961, I decided to teach myself ventriloquism by doing the dishes. Since I had to do the dishes every day, I got lots of practice. But I needed something to say, so I decided to say nursery rhymes. And little did I know that 50 years later, I would become Mother Goose. How prophetic was that? But first, I came to the Wizard of Oz Festival, and I did my shows for 28 years. When they closed, I morphed into Mother Goose to continue doing shows. My book is not about learning nursery rhymes. It's about Teddy Bear messing them up and creating new ones because he can't remember how they go. And there's Professor Wacky Quacky, who tries to solve the greatest riddles of all time. And there's a sweet, naughty dog who thinks his name is Don't. And then he wonders why nobody loves him. But as Mother Goose, I help him, of course. And there's the rainbow bird who's annoyed that everybody wants him to grant their wishes. So he tells them the secret, how they can do it themselves, which actually is inspiring for anybody. The book contains the show I did at the Chicago Field Museum on January the 17th, 2015. I was one of only 7 people selected to perform at their open mic puppetry. And all the puppets speak in rhyme. Once I create the puppets, they tell me what they want to do. It's kind of interesting. I feel like they really wrote the story. I made Teddy Bear in 1961 without a pattern. He's an original. He's just adorable. On the book, in the front page of the book, has a photo of me with all the puppets. And the puppets also appear on the back page, too. They're photographs, so you can see what they really look like.
So in the book, we meet all of these characters, and each one has a different story.
Yes.
And Rainbow Bird is annoyed that everyone wants him to grant their wishes.
There really is a secret how you can do it yourself.
Is it true for me, too? For humans?
Oh, yes.
There is?
Yes, it is.
So you can't tell me the secret. I have to read the book.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But no, there's a way. There is a secret. The sweet, naughty dog, he's actually not a puppet. I was trying to find a puppet that would look like him, and I was just using a little toy dog I had, and I thought, he's got the look I want. But he didn't have a mouth, so I made him a lower lip so that he looks like he's talking, and he's just perfect as the sweet, naughty dog. Thinks his name is Don't. And then I tell him how he can solve his problem.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Yeah, it's nice talking to you.
You have a great day.
Honey, my age, every day is a great day.
John Adair Carroll is a sales manager at an AutoZone, and he's worked on his book for 5 years. It's entitled Solving Major World Problems Through the Formation of a One World Government.
One of the reasons that there's so many problems today is because we're not really looking at the big picture. What is the big picture? And I'd like you to draw a little pyramid. And the thing is that everybody can financially put in the United States' pyramid on a financial basis. At the bottom, the little tiny specks have very little wealth. And at the top, we have round atoms that are huge, and each atom has these tentacles attached. And the more businesses you own, the more tentacles, and the tentacles feed the atom, making it bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's basically what the thing looks like. And the book holds the key to addressing major world problems such as global warming, water and air pollution. And this warming and melting is causing sea levels to greatly rise, and the coastlines around the world are in grave danger at this point. Under a one world government, that's the only type that could actually afford what I'm going to present in the book. US dollar is the strongest worldwide, so we'd have to move to that to financially afford everything. And under the one world government, we'd have to limit the size of wealth to immediate families, at least to 100 acres. Now, once we do that, the pyramid starts falling. It's filling in from the top down, but we just keep forcing all of this wealth to the top of these few hundred wealthiest people anyway. And that eventually, with all the money, all the wealth they have, won't matter, because the global warming and the air pollution will knock it all out anyhow. Wall Street would have to all come under one umbrella, joining them together to get this thing to work properly. And other problems addressed here are water storage problems for communities. Then there's a plan for drought and plan for peace in the Middle East. That's another major world problem. Stopping powerful tornadoes and hurricanes can be achieved. There is a plan in there to stop earthquakes, and we could put, our livestock in buildings to capture all of this methane gas they're spewing out, all the animals worldwide. Another thing is all the pollution from all of these diesel-powered ships moving all the cargo all over the world. You can eliminate all of that simply by converting your fleet into liquid hydrogen-powered submarines. Another thing is the forest fires. How do you eliminate all of that? You'd build some airstrip in forest areas, and underneath would be large storage tanks with part fuel and part water runoff, so that you'd have planes available to dump, a 500,000 gallons immediately. I just consider myself a thinker, and nobody else is close to what my thinking is. It's just not there. And you got to know what the big picture is.
All right, John, thank you. Lakia Frazier makes jewelry in Philadelphia. She's been writing poetry since she was a child, and she's taken a very personal story and tells it through poetry. It's entitled Philly Odds.
The story is about, I would say, generational curse that people turn blind eyes to, that happens in families.
A generational curse?
Yes. Basically, the character L, her father tries to molest her, and the sister winds up killing the father. The sister goes to jail. L doesn't really deal with her family like that anymore, and she moves on and becomes a successful businesswoman, and she gets married to Tariq, and she has kids.
So in your blurb, it says, everything that's brought up against you is incapable of doing. In Elle's case, she never believed she would beat the odds against her. She thought she was trapped in the city of brotherly love, where she didn't receive love from family, friends, or significant others. She had dreams of becoming her own boss one day, after having failed in holding down job positions due to her illness, sickle cell disease. So how does all that tie in?
Because I have sickle cell disease.
So is this your story?
Basically, yes. Yes, it is.
Okay, is that a phone ringing?
Yes, I'm in the hospital.
You're in the hospital?
Yes.
What's the matter?
I have sickle cell, so I had a crisis.
I'm so sorry. I can't believe you're talking to me.
Hopefully, people can understand people who have mental health problems. People can understand people that faces challenges within their family members, within a family, because most of the things they always say was done in the dark, stays in the dark, or they kicks it or sweep underneath the rug. And I'm hoping that my family get healed. It brings light to situations that's happening in my family. and maybe that I could be the mouthpiece for them.
Well, you sure can, Lakia. You're off to a good start. Now feel better. Janet Doherty is a counselor in Louisville, Texas, and when she was going through a divorce, her counselor recommended she start journaling. She wrote her first poem almost 20 years ago and found the process was a natural. Her book is entitled Expressions of Love.
When I write, they literally come to me and I finish them in like 5 or 10 minutes. And so it's not something that, I have to ponder over. There's a couple of poems in there that I do read to my clients to help them look at they're not alone. They're not the only ones that have gone through certain situations and stuff. So I didn't write that book for notoriety or financial stability or anything like that. I knew it wasn't going to be a, bestseller. I wrote it for healing purposes, and I wanted to give it to people or allow other people to be able to see it that, it's a form of healing, that they can move on from their decisions, their choices, and the circumstances that they're in. My husband kept telling me, you really should get them published. You really should get them published. And so I sat down and kind of put them all together. And my oldest daughter is the one that did the photography for each poem.
Nice. Would you like to read something now?
Yes, ma'am. Let's see. One of my favorite poems is Follow Your Heart. This is inspired by my husband because he went through a lot with me. And said, you told me to follow my heart and let it heal itself. I tried, worked through the pain, and put it on the shelf. Forgiving everyone was the easy part. It was not intentional, and I'm sorry I broke their heart. Forgiving myself, now that's a different story. Feeling I belonged in a permanent purgatory. My sins I begged for the Lord to forgive. Each one I tried daily not to relive. Wanting to be better, I changed my ways. My life was clear coming out of the haze. My heart was finally healing. For the first time, I had more than one feeling. Guilt was slowly being replaced with grace, trying to find out why I was on this earth in the first place. My scars are there for no one to see. They're mine alone and belong to me. But my healing took place because you were by my side, helping me to see and be my guide.
Beautiful, Janet. Nice work. Nice work.
Thank you.
Great work from all of our authors. Thank you all for being with us. And that's a wrap for this edition of the Page Publishing Book Club. Remember, if you missed anything, just go to 710WOR.com and download the podcast. Thanks for dropping by. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini.